Welcome to part 2 of Soulful Triumphs and Journeys of Faith with your host, Rosana Labang Teruel. In this episode, Officer Ali Perez will share his testimony recounting the operation during which they pursued a pedophile. He will describe what happened, the gunshots, the injuries, and the intense events that unfolded. Most notably, he will share his powerful experience of witnessing Jesus. Let's watch.
So she put the memory card in her phone and she showed me everything. And after I got done seeing all that I knew it was exactly what I thought. Multiple victims over multiple occurrences, a prolonged period of time. And this has the ability to be a life case. If convicted, could go to prison for the rest of your life over this. And so she showed that with me. We start talking while we're working this out, and I explained to her in great detail, because her biggest fear is that we were going to take her kids from her. So I told her exactly how she can keep her kids and what exactly how she would lose her kids, and I was very clear about it. I didn't sugarcoat it or soften it up. I said, you must keep your children away from that man forever at all costs. If you go anywhere near them, if you put your kids anywhere near him, you will lose your kids. I was very, very plain about that. He started calling, and I captured 3 phone calls of audio recordings. Each phone call was at about 30 minutes long. The first 2 phone calls were complete and total denials, where he denied everything. Wasn't me, didn't do it, no, lie and deny. The last 10 minutes of the last call is where he said, hey, I don't want to talk about it over the phone, but here's the deal. I was offered $50,000 by some guy to make these videos. And we're struggling financially, so I did it for us so that we could have a better life together. And so I made these videos with the intention to sell them, to get money, to give us a better life. And I love your girls. I would never hurt them, right? Which is crazy, thinking of all the stuff that he did to them, but saying I love them. So that makes it okay. And I would never hurt them, which he just totally hurt them and scarred them for the rest of their lives. And that he said, but I don't want to talk about it anymore. Why don't you come home? And she says, I'm very angry with you. I'm not coming home. I'll get home when I'm good and ready, and you're just going to have to wait on me. So we ended the phone call right then and there. And I told her, look, do not call him. Do not take any of his calls. I need to go over there with my team, and I need to go take care of business. When I'm done, I will personally come get you and the girls, and I will personally take you back to the apartment. If it's not me, you don't go. You don't answer the door. You don't answer the phone. If it's not me, this face right here, you don't move. And she said, okay. And so she said, hey, well, I've got some information I want to share with you. She gave me keys to her apartment, and she signed a form that says you may go in and search and collect whatever evidence you think is useful to your investigation. And you have my permission. Go right inside my house. And if you look at it at this point, I had still photos, and the photos contained the bad guy in there. So I had pictures, I had video, and now I had not a confession, but I had an admission of guilt over the phone. I had overwhelming and compelling evidence. You could work 1,000 cases and never get it this good. And the evidence that we had collected was so powerful that the judge, and I'm fast forwarding here, would not allow the video clips to be played. He said, I will not allow you to play the video clips, even though it was the defendant committing the crime and capturing the video with his phone. He made the videos, but the judge says, I'm not doing that. It's too prejudicial to the defendant, to the bad guy. And so I had a good prosecutor that said, hey, no problem. I'm going to get these pictures that are going to be 5 feet tall by 3 feet wide, and I'm going to surround the courtroom with them. And wherever the jury looks, they're going to see what this guy does to babies when he's alone and has a chance. And the judge was okay with that. But he was not going to let the videos to be played. So back to the interview. She goes, he's got some guns. I don't know what kind they are. We did a full background check on him. Now, normally in these cases, unless I'm doing a search warrant, it is me and maybe one other person. Well, I was at a station that I worked. I spent 10 years at that station before I left to the courtroom. And so I knew about, and I'd been gone 4 years. I still knew about half the people at that station. So I went into a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, his name was Mike, and he was working. And I said, hey, Mike, I've got to go out to this town nearby and pick this guy up for molesting these girls. Would you come with me? He said, yeah, no problem. And the supervisor overheard, and he goes, hey, we have only a training day. You can take all of us. And I never get that much help. So it was exciting. So I said, yeah, I'll take everybody. So they went and put surveillance out on the place, and they were watching his apartment and to make sure he was home and he didn't leave. Well, he was coming out on the balcony, smoking a cigarette, looking around and going back inside. And so we were getting that update. I called my buddy who was, 60 miles away and said, hey, we're changing locations. We're actually going out to the house. I said, just meet me out here when you can, and we'll get started. And he said, okay. We put the team together. We head on out there. We surround the apartment complex, not the whole complex, but the apartment building, because there's multiple buildings inside this complex. So we surrounded the apartment building, and then I'm the lead detective, so I have to be the first one there and the last one to leave. So get up to the stairs. I have 8 people with me. It's me, Mike, the supervisor, Craig, and then 5 or 6 other deputy sheriffs with me. So I get there and I call them out by first and last name. Now I already have keys and permission to go inside. But experience teaches me you don't just walk into somebody else's house. That's a surefire way to have a fight you don't need to have. And so what I did was I beat on the door. I had all the evidence. I wasn't worried about losing any evidence. I had overwhelming and compelling evidence. I had good evidence already. So I wasn't in a rush. I wasn't worried about him destroying evidence. I wasn't worried about any of that. So I beat on the door and I call him out. Pardon me. He's not coming to the door. He won't answer the door. We know he's home. He doesn't want to be held accountable for his actions. So I take a key and I get to the bottom lock and I turn it, and I'm getting ready to start on the deadbolt. And one of my partners on the back side of the building gets on the radio and goes, hey, I hear a little girl screaming, and I can't tell if it's the apartment you guys are trying to get into or if it's one next to it. Well, that changes everything, because now there is a possibility that there's a baby inside, and we already know what he does to little girls when he's alone and has the time. So I went to try the deadbolt lock, but it was rigged shut. That's an old trick we've seen in the jail 100 times. So I go, so we know he's inside. He's rigged the door shut. He doesn't want to come to the door. I don't have any other options. Supervisor looks at me. His name was Craig, and he said, hey, are you going to kick the door? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And he tells me to mule kick it, which means put my back to it and kick it that way, which I'm so glad that he did, because you see my arm in this sling right here. And so what happens is that I get there and I put my back to the door and I kick the door, and the bottom half of the door folded and then snapped down shut, which was very weird, was very odd to me. Normally I can kick a door open right away on the first time, but that didn't happen. So I ended up having to kick it a second time. Now, a couple of key components here was it was a bright, bright, sunny day. This was September 25th, 2012, in the city of Lakeside, California, which is in San Diego County. So it's about 10 miles outside of San Diego, just so you have a geographical reference. And I kicked open the door, and it was a bright, sunny day because it was 12 o'clock noon, and I went from bright sun to a pitch black apartment. He had turned off all the lights, covered all the windows, dropped all the blinds, put towels and sheets and blankets over all, and made the apartment very dark. So when I came inside, my eyes hadn't adjusted, and I didn't see him right away. And he was about 10 feet away, and he was laying on his stomach. He was waiting on me with a rifle. And it's a M1 Garand, an old World War II battle rifle. It's chambered in a .308. It's about a bullet about that big. And so he opened fire, and the first round hit me in the left arm. And it almost took my arm completely off. The only thing that kept my arm attached was some of the back of my arm and the tricep right here. Because the bone had been totally disintegrated. It ripped my bicep off. It destroyed the brachial artery right next to my heart. And so the first thing that happens is that my body locked up and seized up really bad, like in some of those UFC fights. My body locked up, and then all I saw was white static. And I don't know how long I was in that state. My best guess is 5, 10, 15 seconds. When I woke, I was on my back, and I could hear the gunfire, and the gunfight was actively going on. And I looked outside, and my partner Mike was down on one knee, and he was shooting into the apartment. Craig, the supervisor, was over his shoulder. They were both shooting inside the apartment, and bad guy was running back and forth all over the place. And he was shooting from different positions. I'm in agony. I'm in so much pain that it feels like somebody had just covered me with gasoline and set me on fire and then run me over with a truck a couple of times. And I was miserable. It hurt so bad. It took the wind right out of me, and it was a lot to deal with. And I came back, and I was like, okay, what happened? And then I realized, okay, I've been shot. How bad is it? I don't know. I need to check. So what I did is I was looking down at my feet and working my way up. I was looking for holes in my body. So I started at my toes and worked my way up. I'm looking for holes. I'm like, okay, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good. All the way up to my chest and my vest. I was wearing a tactical vest, but my arm, you guys see the brace right here. This is where my brain told me my arm was, but every time I looked down there, it wasn't there. This is where I could feel it, but I couldn't see it. So I was weirded out by that, and I was like, I feel my arm just like I feel it right now, but I don't see it. And I kept looking, and it was up over my head like this, but this part of my arm was going that way, not this way, the way you guys see how it naturally bends. It was bent the wrong way. And I knew that it was that was a really horrific injury. And I started doing some rough calculations and was like, okay, that's my brachial artery right next to my heart. I've got about 4 minutes before I lose conscious from the blood loss. And about 8 minutes after that, I'm going to be brain dead. And so I just was very the word I'm trying to say is it just became like a list. Am I alive? Are you breathing? Can you see? Can you fight? That's all I cared about. I didn't care about the pain. I didn't care about the blood loss. All I cared about was, am I alive, and do I have the ability to fight? And if the answer to that is yes, my only mission is to kill this man at all costs. Now, I heard the supervisor outside get on the radio and request backup, and he said, hey, we have a deputy that's been shot. I need a rescue team. He gave this whole extensive list of everything that he needed. What we didn't know is bullet fragments going through the wall cut his radio wire. So only a little bit of it went out, and the rest he was just talking into a radio that's dead. Now, he put out this special code in California for California police officers called an 1199, which means if you can hear this radio traffic, you need to stop what you're doing and go help. That there's a serious problem going on. And I've been through a couple of those in my career, so I know that it's just a matter of time before a bunch of police officers are going to show up. And we're going to overwhelm this guy, and he'll either surrender or he'll be killed in a shootout. And so up to that point, I thought we were winning, really, because I heard it. And I said, I just need to stay alive long enough for the cavalry to show up. I'm going to be fine. And then the next thought that went through my mind was, okay, you've been shot, but the all call has gone out. The call for the distress call has been put out. You need to stay alive long enough for them to show up. And now the only thing that matters is you killing this man. And so that was it. That was the only thought that went through my mind. Kill this man at all costs. So I was like, where's my weapon at? Well, it's in my right hand. Had I gone through the door front ways, my right arm would have been the one that was incapacitated and not my left arm. And when the supervisor told me to put my back to the door, he actually saved my good arm. So it seems small, but it was very significant later on. So I always bring that up because I want to honor him and say, you know what? He saved my right arm. He saved my good arm. I can shoot with both hands, but I'm far better with my right hand than I am with my left hand. And so that was a big deal. So now the next question is, where's my weapon? It's right here in my hand. Then it was see bad guy, shoot bad guy. And that's what I was, that's what I was looking to do. He crossed my field of vision. I raised my weapon. I started shooting at him inside the apartment. Now, I'm the only one that makes it into the apartment during this entire ordeal. I got 8 deputies with me, and he's firing from different positions all over the apartment at all of us. And so I see him and I raise my weapon. I start shooting, and he runs down a hallway, goes into a back room and starts shooting out the window. Well, while he was doing that, I took the time to do an assessment. I looked out the window. I looked out the door, and I'm arm's length away from the door jamb, but I can't get up. I did not respond to any of my commands. I wanted to jump up, run out the apartment, and go get medical attention on my arm. But my body wouldn't move. It would not obey my commands. I said, sit up, and my body wouldn't respond. I tried to sit up. I tried to move my legs. Nothing would work. My body was frozen, solid, except for my right arm, my neck, and my head. And I don't have an explanation for that. I don't know why, but that's what happened to me. So I'm stuck. I can't get up. I can't run out the door. And I'm looking out the door, and I see Mike there, and he's asking me where the guy's at. But I'm fighting off the pain. I'm trying to keep my wits about me. I'm dealing with a bunch of blood loss. And so my words aren't coming out clearly like they are now. They were just some little blurbs. And I would say something that wasn't helpful, like he's right there. Well, where right there? So I started pointing my gun, and where I point my gun, they would shoot. And that would keep the guy back. And I looked over, and the next thing I see is that the supervisor, he got shot. He was doubled over, and he had all this meat hanging off his arm. He had a bullet go through the wall and hit him in the wrist and split him all the way down the elbow, from wrist to elbow, and he had all this meat hanging off his arm. So now he's out of the fight. He's on Mike's right. I'm just inside the apartment to Mike's left. The sergeant's bent over in pain. I'm laying down here on the ground. Mike's the only one left. He's stuck between the both of us. We know he has a high-powered rifle. If Mike runs in there after me, he's going to be laying down right next to me, and now 3 of us are going to need rescuing. And so I don't see bad guy. Bad guy's low crawling on his stomach, and I didn't see him until it was too late. And I turned and I looked at Mike, and I said, come get me, bro. And the bad guy hooked the door and pulled the door shut and relocked me in and ran down the hallway. Now, if we pause there and fast forward a year and a half later to the preliminary hearing, that was the only question that the detective asked, that the defense attorney asked me that bothered me. He said, how come when the defendant was right by the door, you didn't shoot him? And my answer on the stand was, I don't know. But I looked back on it, and it was the blood loss. With all the blood loss I was experiencing, my reaction times were getting slower and slower and slower and slower. And so by the time I saw him, recognized it was a problem, told my body to do something about it, he'd come and gone. When I told myself to shoot him, he'd already moved out of the way. So now I'm locked inside the apartment with just me and the bad guy. This is the first of 3 times I thought I was gonna die. And at that point, I was like, okay, to my last breath, to my last drop of blood, to my last bullet, kill this man. Stop playing around. You're not dying in this nasty child molester's apartment. You're not failing your wife. You're not failing your kids. You're going to kill this man right now. And that just was on loop in my head. I must have said that to myself 1,000,000 times during the course of this thing. And so he peers around the corner and we start shooting at each other again. Now, I don't know who shot who first. The order I'm not certain of, but I know we both shot each other. So he shot me a second time. This one hit me in my chest and it went through my whole body. The entry wound was the size of my hand, and then out my back was 2 of my hands stacked together. And it took out my rib, my lung, my diaphragm, a bunch of my intestines, and my spleen. It missed my heart and my liver, though, but it just, bullet fragments went everywhere. And I barely felt it. And my best explanation to that is, hey, I was in so much pain from my arm. When I got shot a second time, it's like, I can't add any more pain to what you're already feeling. I remember it feeling like getting hit with a softball, like somebody throwing a ball at you. And that was it. And I thought that was weird. And I was like, wow. It took me out. It surprised me. I was like, and he didn't shoot me in the head. So I'm like, wow, I can still fight. And I had horrible injury with my left arm, but now I have catastrophic and life-threatening injuries, and I'm losing blood at an astronomical rate. And I'm shooting at the guy, and I hit him 3 times. I shot him twice right here in the abdomen. Then he turned to run, and I shot him once in the butt as he was going to go down the hallway. So I shot him 3 times. Now the difference is he has a big rifle. I have a handgun. So while he's injured, he's not incapacitated. I'm incapacitated with catastrophic and life-threatening wounds, and I'm just bleeding like nobody's business. And I was shooting, I run out of bullets. So I have to eject my magazine, my slide locks back on my handgun. Now I'm dressed, I have a black tactical vest in yellow letters that says sheriff's on it. I have black dress pants, black shoes. I have a dark purple shirt underneath with my vest sitting on top. My handgun is black. I dumped my magazine. I set my weapon mid-thigh so it camouflaged and covered my weapon. And I had a pouch. I had a magazine pouch right here that had 4 spare magazines. Magazines hold the bullets. The flap on my pouch, and I extract the magazine. I'll never forget. I had it about this far from my face. I'm running through the checklist on how to actuate and get my weapon ready. And as I'm staring at it, I don't see him. Bad guy walks over and he kicks it out of my hand. And he's standing over the top of me with his rifle. I thought he was going to execute me right there, but very calmly, he just said, "Where's your duty weapon at?" And I didn't remember where I had set it in all the chaos. And I looked up at him and I said, "I don't know, man." And he turned around and he believed me. And he walked away. Thank you, God, for that. Well, as he was walking away, I hear a very specific sound to his rifle, which lets me know that he's out of bullets. His magazine box or his clip that holds his ammunition, when it goes out of his rifle, it makes a ping. So it went ping, and it clued me in that he was out of ammo. And so it became a race to reload. Now I had 4 magazines. They were sitting up like this. They were vertical. But when I took one out, they all fell over like this. Now they're laying down. Now they're deeper in the pouch, and it's not as easy to grab. And the pouch is over here. Like right now during this interview, this is 13 years later. It's very easy for me to articulate and move my hands. But in the midst of the apartment, it was next to impossible just to get my arm to go from here to here. It was an impossibility. It was so slow. And so it took all my strength to force my arm over there. And I'm frantically trying to get my hand in my hand. My fine motor skills aren't there. I'm trying to dig it out. I'm trying to dig it out, and I can't get it. And I hear him, sounds like he's inserting a fresh clip. And at that point, I start to panic, and I get overwhelmed with all these emotions. Now, up until that point, I didn't have time. I was too busy not dying. That was my only, I cared, am I alive and can I fight? And that's all I cared about. I didn't care about the blood loss. I didn't care about the pain. I didn't care about the injuries. I didn't care about anything other than, am I alive? Can I fight? If the answer to that is yes, then I have a chance to live. And nothing else mattered. Well, when I heard that, I started to panic. And then I got overwhelmed with all these flood of emotions at the worst possible time, right in the middle of this fight. And I hear him cycle his weapon, and he makes it hot. It means he's ready to shoot, and I'm nowhere near. I don't even have my bullets yet, much less recovered my weapon, put it all in. I had so many more steps. I was so far behind, and that weight almost choked the life out of me right there. That never mind the gunshot wounds and the blood loss. When he cycled his weapon and made it hot, and I knew he had a fully loaded and operational weapon, at that point, I got overwhelmed with a sense of failure for failing my family so bad. That almost killed me right there. It almost choked the life out of me. I'll never forget. I was overwhelmed with the sense of failure. I was angry. I was sad. I was frustrated. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. And I kept just getting more and more angry and frustrated. Like, I let a pedophile kill me. I knew I was going to die, and there was nothing I could do to change my death. And that was it. I'm dying in this nasty pedophile's apartment. And I kept telling myself a million times up until this point, I said, I'm not dying here. I'm not dying in this nasty child molester's apartment. I'm going to get my weapon, make it hot. I'm going to kill this man. It's to my last stand, my last drop of blood, my last breath, my last bullet. I will kill this man. I'm going home to my family. I'm not dying here. And it just didn't work. And I was overwhelmed with all these crazy emotions at the worst possible time. And then this little voice, slapped me out of my pity party, is what I call it. I said, hey, you're not dead yet. Get your weapon, make it hot, kill this man. And it was the jolt that I needed to reconcentrate, refocus, get back in the fight. And I said, you're right, I'm not dead yet. So again, I go back to work, frantically trying to get to my ammunition, and I can't reach it. My fingers aren't working. My arm isn't working. My hand's not working. I'm spilling blood everywhere. And the anxiety starts building up because I know he has a fully loaded weapon. And at this point, I know it's not any second, it's any moment I'm about to get shot in the head, and I can't take it anymore. And I said, man, if today's my day to die, so be it. I'm not going to roll up into a little ball. I'm going to look right at him. I'm going to take his best shot. I'm going to see what he's made of. And I raised my eyes to I knew I was dying. That was it. This is where I was dying, and I couldn't take the waiting anymore. I wanted to get it over with. And I raised my eyes to accept my death that I knew was coming, and there's nothing I can do to change it. I've gone as far as I can go, and I have failed. This guy has beat me, and he's won. And that's when the miracle of all miracles happens for me in my life. I did not see Jesus appear. He was there when I raised my eyes to accept my death. And I was overwhelmed and submerged in complete and total peace. In the presence of the Lord, it was complete and total peace. Prince of Peace, one of his titles. The peace was so thick, it was surrounding me like water in the ocean. My lungs didn't hurt, my body didn't hurt, my left arm didn't hurt, my chest, my ribs, none of my injuries hurt at all, and I was breathing freely normally. And it was like somebody dipped me in a jacuzzi of warm bath water. And it was a complete and total peace, and I was in awe. And I get asked, I describe it as Jesus is magnificent. That's the words I use to describe him. He's magnificent. And in his presence, He's not large in stature, and I'll describe him here shortly. But he's magnificent. He's average height, average build. He was wearing a white robe. He had a white sash around his waist. On the floor, there was 2 rings of white light with these.
Stay tuned for part 3, where he will share his experience in the hospital, including a spiritual battle he witnessed during his coma. He will also recount everything that happened, including the prophetic message of Jesus Christ concerning San Diego, California, as well as his miraculous recovery.